The Shark Deck.
Hey, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Hasan Minhaj, you know, the guy that made up some stuff in his comedy routine and everybody's all upset. I've been saying that a little flippantly. I agree with the take in the New York Times last week that obviously we know comedians make stuff up, but the way that Hasan did it in his last special, he may have blown himself up here. We'll talk about that in a second. But he is the lead actor in the new DC Warner Brothers Spotify collaboration, The Riddler Secrets in the Dark. It's a scripted podcast. It's a Batman thing, and Hasan plays the Riddler. Now, usually, the Riddler tells Batman true things disguised as riddles, so who knows? Interesting casting there. In this version, the vigilante Batman has undergone some unknown traumatic episode, and it's up to the Riddler to try and piece together the mystery. See, they flipped things on its head there. Very interesting. NBC News caught up with comedian Sarah Suzuki, Harvard, who's a Muslim American, and for her, Hasan was a role model. She said the use of race and religion in his comedy was empowering and inspired some of her material. But she adds, they trusted him. That's why I think people are upset, and it makes sense why there's backlash. A lot of people trusted Hasan Minhaj. They trusted his programs because he depicted himself as a journalist, truth teller, and someone who would always speak to what's right, and he completely destroyed that. Well said, Sarah. That's kind of what I've been dancing with, even though I've been flippingly going, Hasan, who lies people. I think it's a little different than maybe Jim Gaffigan not actually eating a Hot Pocket earlier in the day. I think it's different. The San Francisco Gate was at Pete Davidson's recent show. Pete was flubbing lines and joked, I'm always mid. The Gate says Pete mixed up a couple of his stories throughout the show and had to stop to read from his notes 3 times. Davidson made some jokes about San Francisco, saying, it's not that bad out here. There's still the Full House house, the Mrs. Doubtfire house. It's not that bad. He made a joke about his disdain for meeting 6 children through the Make-A-Wish Foundation. His joke, their dying wish is to meet me. This kid has no hope. He joked about his well-publicized love life, and he said the low point came not when he lost a lover, but when he lost a stalker. His joke, the difference between a stalker and not is whether they're hot. Ugly girls don't make bombs, they eat cookies and cut themselves. Bill Engvall, remember he retired? He's back for one night only, baby. Bill Engvall will perform October 7th in Salt Lake City. It's a benefit for the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center of Northern Utah. Bill told Good Things Utah how a great horned owl named Ollie inspired Bill Engvall to return to the spotlight for one show. You see, Ollie the owl was living above the front door of Bill Engvall's house for a few weeks, and one day Bill and Mrs. Bill noticed the bird lying in the driveway with an injury. The couple put Ollie in the truck and drove him to the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center of Northern Utah. After 6 months of rehab, Ollie was released back into the wild near Bill's home and became a father to 4 baby owls. Bill said about the benefit, I didn't even say let me think about it. They do such a great job, and this benefit is for them to have what we call a forever home where they don't have to move anymore. Earlier this year, the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center of Northern Utah was told it was going to have to move to make way for a new parking lot owned by the neighboring Dinosaur Park. With the benefit, Bill and the organization hope to find a permanent facility for the nonprofit to continue its rehabilitation of roughly 4,000 injured animals every year. Nice job, Bill Engvall. David Spade has a new unscripted game show on Fox. It'll be out this week. It's called Snake Oil. Will Arnett is your executive producer. On Snake Oil, contestants are pitched unique products by convincing entrepreneurs, but some of them are showcasing real business ventures, while others are snake oil salesmen whose products are fake. With the help of guest celebrity advisors, contestants have to figure out which ones are real, which are a sham. There will be celebrity guest advisors including Adam Devine, J.B. Smoove, Natasha Leggero, and more. David Spade said, when Fox asked me to host their new show, I was flattered, but then they told me it was about a shady snake oil salesman, and I was a little less flattered to be the guy that immediately comes to mind. Alison Wallach is a suit at Fox and gave this quote-unquote David Spade's signature brand of irreverent comedy and Will Arnett's ingenuity, combined with the most bizarre consumer products ever devised, creates an incredibly entertaining guessing game that embodies everything snake oil is all about. I want to throw up on that quote. Suits shouldn't give quotes. Snake Oil, Wednesday on Fox. The Press Enterprise caught up with Tracy Morgan, who said, you have to be able to say what you want to say, and I created a lane for myself where you can't cancel me. That sounds like a challenge. All you're going to see is funny if you go see him on Friday at the Morongo Casino Resort and Spa. Tracy said, it doesn't matter what I talk about because I'm bringing it to you. You don't have to worry about material because God didn't give me material. He gave me a sense of humor, and material's right in front of me. All right, Tracy, when did you first realize you could be a comedian professionally? Tracy said, when my mother's water broke in 1968 at 5 in the morning. I was born this way. You don't realize it. You just do. It's my personality. My father was funny and did stand-up in Vietnam. So I'm going to say it was following my dad's footsteps like most sons do. I didn't make money off it until 95, 96. That's when it really turned into a business. All right, how would you describe your comedy, Tracy Morgan? The spirit got into me when I saw Def Jam. I got on stage. I was just being me. I said the things I understood and was funny with. I rolled the dice and took a chance, and then 4 months later, I was on Def Jam. I don't think I had anything to do with it. It was the people that recognized the funny that put me on stage. All right, Tracy Morgan, do you have any comedian friends you hang out with? What's that like? Tracy said, Martin Lawrence and Eddie Murphy are like my family. They showed it to me, brought it out of me, and are big influences in my life. You got to understand that I don't just love Eddie or Martin on a comedic level. I love them on a human level. So when we're together, we talk about human things, not funny things. We talk about real things. Some people stay in the comedy zone all day long, and that's all they know. That's why I don't have a lot of friends in show business. They don't know how to come out of character. They think if they're real for 1 minute, their comedy will go away. Gonna be honest, I was all excited when I saw that The Rap spoke with the guys from Please Don't Destroy, and then I got a little sad. Why, Johnny Mac? Well, let me tell you, the guys from Please Don't Destroy are Martin Herlihy, John Higgins, and Ben Marshall. And I didn't know this, the whole Nepo Baby thing came up. Yeah, you see, Martin Herlihy's father was Saturday Night Live head writer and producer Tim Herlihy, and John Higgins' father was writer and announcer producer Steve Higgins. So I'll jump in here. It doesn't mean they're not talented, but it does suggest to me that it was a little easier for their stuff to get to Lorne Michaels. That's how the business works. Higgins told The Rap, the thing is, we get it. We're so lucky to have those connections. He understands that the troupe had a huge leg up in the industry while also acknowledging how hard we work on stuff. So I feel really lucky. I get the conversation. We just keep going. Fair enough. Herlihy said, I hope the work is good enough and what we're doing is fresh enough that there's a place for it. But obviously we acknowledge that beyond even connections or whatever, we have crazy privilege of being 3 straight white guys from NYU. Marshall chimed in and said, I can also say from firsthand experience that these dudes work crazy hard and hold themselves to a super high standard and don't take it lightly. Being at 30 Rock and taking the elevator and looking at the floor and seeing the Peacock logo, that kind of thing still feels a little magical. But honestly, once we were there working, you don't have time to think about anything. It's just kind of like go, go, go. So we were really thrown into the fire. I think our second week on the show, we had a video on, and then from there, it was just off to the races. But it's still crazy. I still pinch myself that we're working there. I do like their work a lot. I have a Christmas miracle for you, although it's September. It's a Monday, which means there's a new episode of the Weekly Comedy Thing. That's the show I host on the Live One app. The app is free. The show is free. It's called the Weekly Comedy Thing. So what I do there, that's the forerunner of this thing. I tell quick versions of the stories that you hear on this podcast, but then I get to actually play the comedian's bits because, licensing and rights and stuff. And I have been meaning to do this for months, and I forget every Monday. I'm going to tell you who's on the show this week. All right. So we have Michelle Wolf, Russell Peters, David Spade, Chris Rock, Leslie Jones, Aparna Nancherla, David Cross talking about his tour name, Eugene Merman about getting into stand-up, Nate Bargatze on making it, Chonda Pierce, Doug Stanhope, and Dice Clay are both in new movies, and Steve Morton. So that's called the Weekly Comedy Thing. Grab it on your phone there, and you can listen to it after this. Hopefully I'll remember next Monday to do this again. Let's see who's at Just for Laughs on this Monday. 7 o'clock, Julie Kim, Patty Harrison, The Great Canadian Comedy Show, Jesus Trejo, those are good options. 8 o'clock, I Love Toronto. Double Threat, Hassan Phillips and Malik Alisal. 9 o'clock, Gavin Matz. Another double threat, this one with Nigel Grinstead and Jonas Charlie. Dulce Sloan at 9 o'clock. 10 o'clock, another double threat. Chad Anderson and Adrian Fish. 11 o'clock, Late Night Surprise. 11:30, Midnight Madness. All right, let's make it a night where we don't see big names. Let's do the Great Canadian Comedy Show at 7 o'clock. Always good to see some local comedy. And then let's do the double threats at 8, 9, and 10, and then we'll go to bed. You can go out by yourself at Midnight Madness at 11:30. Johnny Mac likes his sleep. That's a really solid Monday. At comedy festivals, Mondays are usually dark, honestly, or maybe there's one show. That's a robust night. So we'll have a good night out, hypothetically, in Toronto, which is a great city. Vulture, speaking to Gary Goldman, a lot of press. Gary Goldman's book being received well. Gary talked about his influences and said, I read so many books about memoir and writing. I read this collection of Kurt Vonnegut's ideas on writing that were cobbled together from everything he'd ever said about writing called Pity the Reader. Then I read Stephen King's On Writing. The best thing he said was, you need to be a great reader. You need to read a lot, which gave me this thing where I was just not procrastinating, but also reading, which I felt good about. In terms of memoirs, Adam Resnick, the creator with Chris Elliott of Get a Life and Cabin Boy, wrote a book called Will Not Attend, which was a collection of essays. It was the funniest thing I ever read. So I just kept reading, and then I realized, oh, I'm just putting off my writing. And I said, all right, you need to earn some reading by writing for an hour. So I was just reading and writing all day. And luckily, I'm married to a reader. My wife reads all the time. And it was also during the pandemic, so everybody understood any kind of behavior. It was really helpful. And that's your comedy news for today. Let's do another week of telling a friend about the show. Hey, friend, do you like podcasts? There's this guy, Johnny Mac, and he just told this great, amazing story about Gary Goldman. You got to hear it. Here, let me get your phone out of your hand. Give me your phone. Take it, and then take the phone out of their hand, and then open up the podcast app and type in Daily Comedy News and push follow. Do that. They won't think you're weird at all. You're going to do that for me. Appreciate you. See you tomorrow.